I am very, very pleased to present Hank Koning and Julie Eizenberg of Koning Eizenberg Architecture. This lecture is extra special to me because I worked in their office for a wonderful period of time right after I graduated from the University of Texas. They do a lot of work in affordable housing, in adaptive reuse, in green design and sustainability, and we have both of them here, and I think one of the beautiful things about their office is the collaborative environment that they have created. It truly is a space where everyone's ideas count, everyone works on projects together, and they are very accessible leaders that create an environment that also then creates beautiful architecture. Hank and Julie are both fellows of the AIA. Their work has won AIA awards, AIA California awards, national awards. Their work has won awards in Australia, so they've done a little bit of everything. If you've ever been in my studio, you've seen their projects as case studies and precedents. In methods, we look at their work as well. So I'm just over the moon that they are both here to present their work today. So let's give it up. Warm OU welcome for Hank and Julie.
Okay. You taking left or right?
I'm on the left.
Okay, you have to give me that thing. Oh, here it is.
There it is.
Okay. That's how we feel most days. And I'd like to talk to you about superpowers. It's lovely to be here. No, that's not going to get me there.
You have to do the one that, not the down one.
The down one. Ah. So the lecture, unfortunately, I'm struggling between where my notes are and where the screen is, so I'm going to have to go with my notes if I'm... we started calling this lecture Exercising Agency because a friend of ours in New York had asked me to speak about it. And I thought the idea of agency was going, you guys all know what I mean by when I talk about agency? Yeah. And it arose in response to the ongoing perception that there's a fundamental crisis of identity and purpose in architectural profession. Some think of agency as reclaiming the architect's power to influence society beyond just drawing buildings. Many of us, 10 years ago or more, saw it sponsor, the idea of agency sponsor people trying to reinvent what practice was. And does it take superpowers? Agency in our practice is exercised by leveraging opportunities to do more on an everyday basis. We've been lucky enough to work with institutions who want to do more. So let's never forget, it's actually the client side that brings the opportunity for us to do more. And in this case, the first example I want to show is like the opportunity to rethink educational settings socially and pedagogically. This first project is the Student Pavilion, which is located in the student precinct at the University of Melbourne, which is where Hank and I went to architecture school, where we met on the first day, where we became... It's a very soppy story, and that's 1972. The University of Melbourne, like many universities, has been grappling with social isolation among students and its run-on impact on academic achievement, emotional well-being, and escalating suicide rates. The university's response was to rethink the design of their campus setting to better support in-person community. Social media is not a substitute for in-person interaction, and it is unlikely that chatbots will be either. You think it's your turn, but it's not. You have to wait.
I never get to talk.
Soon. The design of the Student Pavilion and Student Precinct is a good example of how architecture can do more to facilitate equity, inclusion, and the building of community. No, it's still not your turn. He's going to walk out in a humph, right? We learned early on that to make places where everyone feels welcome, we needed to develop trust, offer a sense of ease, and deal with fit relative to place and people. What does that mean? Well, as you can see by the sort of tags that come with it, you can see the sort of categories of things that covers. Whoops. So how does that translate into tools for planning and architectural expression? This is probably not news to most of you. It's about choice. Choice empowers people. Feeling empowered makes you feel included. Discovery, it's an issue of being in charge of a situation. You discover something, it enriches the experience for you and makes you feel connected. activity. I can keep going around this, but you could probably make up your own reasons for why all of these toolkit ideas are there. So let's see how this plays out in the buildings. So back to the University of Melbourne, where I've already told you that I met him. And now, guess what, Hank? It's your turn.
Okay, so we lived in a share house, and you can see the yellow asterisk, which I can't see.
I'll do the Vanna White if you remember that show.
With gentrification in the inner city, few students now can afford to live in walking distance. And unlike the States, there are few university-built dorms. Okay, there are colleges, but they're in that horseshoe, and they're for the country gentleman's offspring. The uni is now a predominantly commuter campus serving around 60,000 students, with many coming from overseas. It used to be a majority, but things have changed a little, and mostly from Asia. Many students are crammed into privately developed remote apartments with few amenities. Most of the time, the living room is someone's bedroom, or two people. And the university is very highly ranked academically, but the student life experience did not score so well. Okay? That button. Okay. So in response, the university proposed the Student Pavilion in 2016.
It actually was a student precinct.
2016. It's a 223,500 square feet of social and study hub on the campus. And it's as a key part of their effort to improve student life and address social isolation. They held an international open competition to select architects, and as part of the winning team, we joined the university's co-creation process with students who set both design principles and program. The student priorities included inclusivity, Indigenous reconciliation, and sustainability. The program included arts and cultural venues, student study space, recreation, social amenities, and of course, food. Our team was made up of 6 architects and 2 landscape architects. All wondered why campus buildings had such a uniform character when the student body was so diverse. Our winning submission proposed a master plan with a unifying landscape that reinstated the pre-colonial topography, integrated First Nation narratives, and connected a collection of buildings that celebrate difference. Some buildings were new, some historic, some repurposed. Each participating architectural firm then took on one piece of the master plan. We developed the Student Pavilion. And this is a 25,000 square foot building with a rather small footprint squeezed between the Asia Centre on the left and the new Arts and Culture building on the right. It's best described as a neighbourhood hangout. For many students, it is their living room. And we knew we had connected with the students when we heard they had shortened the name of the building to the PAV, which by no coincidence also refers to a popular Australian dessert, the pavlova, which is delicious. And it looks like our building, you'll see. The PAV's informal program and space making highlights the domestic over the institutional. It offers large spaces and small spaces, indoor and out. It is in constant use. On any given day, one passes a range of activities, like from the knitting circle to the Vietnamese cooking club to students studying alone or in groups.
Is he talking too softly?
Yeah, but I'm going to try to help you out. There should be a volume. There's no volume up here?
There is no volume up here.
Yeah, this is completely... Oh, right here. Here we go.
Ah!
Do you mind if I help you out?
No, this is
Please
great.
do. We often need help, I can tell you.
Hello. Can you hear feedback?
Is that better?
Is that better? No. You in the back.
Okay.
Hey, you sleeping. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. One of the interesting things you'll see, it says the Rowden White Library. It's an interesting library because it says no studying permitted. And it's just a recreational library where you can go and check out crappy novels or I used to go there and record, you know, Pink Floyd, I'd put them on cassettes, all that sort of stuff. But don't tell anyone, that was probably a violation of copyright. Anyway, the idea of discovery is built into the structural system. Straight-laced in one direction and plastic and energetic in the other. One of the pleasures of working in distant places is learning what construction technology works best for a building. In this case, we drove to the outer suburbs of Melbourne to meet with the precast concrete fabricator to determine what they could do and what's possible. Now, this particular structural system we show would not be possible in LA, but it was in Melbourne, simply because they don't have any seismic activity. Well, not much. The skin is designed as a flexible system which can be easily adjusted to achieve a glazing ratio that meets sustainability objectives, visibility goals and budget. Julie's the tour guide.
It's nice to have a mic as a tour guide, right? So what am I meant to say? So we're going to head to the pavilion from the tram stop. And this tram stop is on Swanston Street, which is a main drag for streetcars. We've had, I went to school on a streetcar. The whole city had a streetcar system that gave a lot of independence to kids in town at the time. Okay, so then we go, you'll see sustainably harvested Australian blackbutt, which is a wood, and it's used both for the exterior and interior to add a warm domestic quality and a counterpoint to the concrete. Activity is highlighted both at ground level and in the occupiable outdoor spaces above. You can see there's sort of perches up there. That's the other kind of issue of space. When we think about making social space in institutional settings, we're usually talking about large numbers. We think what's missing space is places where small groups can hang out. Folded stainless steel netting transforms the university safety requirement for 5-foot railings. They've had a lot of issues of people jumping, to an opportunity to create detail and ornament. And you can see how those folds take the light differently. Big picture sustainable features are visible and contribute to the equivalent of what we would call in the States LEED Platinum rating. Heading inside to the dining commons and out again to the big welcome stair. Something that was designed to communicate to everyone that everything was for student use. The path connects to the arts building at the ground level and also via a bridge on the second. Inside, it's light-filled and offers choice of aspect, seating and scale. And you can see how the energy sort of strategy is. Mixed mode allows those areas to have open windows and doors most of the time without compromising, and the conditioned space creates a more, standard thermal comfort zone that's more controlled. You can see the sort of the sensibility of those spaces. This building opened during COVID, hence the masks, and the big view towards downtown. Heading under the Porcupine, you can see why it's called the Porcupine, we should have actually known better. I got flack from my friends in Australia because we called it the Porcupine, because we really should have called it the echidna, which is the Australian version of the same kind of animal. It has bigger spines than the porcupine. Outdoor upper level spaces continue to the south side, which is the shady side in Australia, hence more glass. And heading up to the top floor where event space is located. This level was designed to feel like a vacation house that your wealthy aunt lent you for the weekend. Don't we all want one? It provides event and gathering space for 20 to 200. Kitchens needed for food service provide a domestic backdrop, which has proven a draw for students who like to study there off hours. The academic core is dense and urban, and we were pleased to be able to offer the first student-serving rooftop space on campus. When a pedagogical agenda demands students take agency, then the design of the environment needs to support it. So this is the issue of, we're not just giving agency to architects, we're giving agency to the people who use buildings. How many of you know about project-based learning? Went to school in it? A few? So you get the hints in here. The approach has been around for a while. You saw it early in Montessori and Reggio Emilio kindergarten and early education settings, and it has become the basis for 21st century education, another name for the same thing. Basically what it does is, well, I'll tell you in a second. Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District is the public school district, are among the leaders of the implementation of this kind of learning in public schools. And it is it says it here, so I'll do it this way. We jumped at the opportunity to rewrite the public high school experience as a site-integrated, interdisciplinary, and free-spirit exemplar for inquiry-based learning. I'll start by briefly walking you through. This is the west courtyard that looks out to the ocean. It's tough being in Malibu, isn't it? And there's the commons. We look out to the mountains. Upstairs in the commons is more opportunity for hanging or studying alone or with friends between class. For this generation, and yours too probably, social time and work time overlap and intertwine. And the larger upper level terrace that has an even better view of the coast and ocean beyond.
I need that. Okay, so let's talk about the context, and let me orient you. The high school is located adjacent to an existing middle school. It is set in the rugged coastal foothills of Malibu, a high fire hazard zone. And we want to design the high school to make its natural setting integral to the daily life of campus and community. We undertook a very extensive community engagement process, including with the students. And they were definitely one of the most spot-on and informative of the stakeholder groups. So let's look at that site, the beginning. We started just before COVID. The high school site is on the left and the middle school on the right, with existing shared athletic performance and recreational facilities between and up behind the buildings. The vehicle and fire access road, unfortunately, cut the high school off from the rest of the campus. The road served as the only access to the parking and the shared facilities. Now, these shared facilities are open on weekends. Okay, and this is what it looked like.
Isn't it amazing what people can do to a really
segregating
beautiful
and
setting?
dangerous.
It's crazy.
And easily confused with an ICE detention centre.
Yeah. True.
Okay, so our planning strategy began by restoring the natural topography of the site and also expanding and repairing the ESHA, the environmentally sensitive habitat area shown in green, and then establishing connections between the high school and the middle school by rerouting the road to get the cars out of the centre of the campus. This also gave more prominence to the ESHA, which now includes a public nature trail, and the space between the high school and middle school is now car-free, still serves as a fire lane, of course, and provides opportunity for a barrier-free,
that's the green dot,
accessible pedestrian path across the campus and an expansion of that coastal landscape. The school comfortably...
Hey.
What?
Give it back.
Damn, this is the good bit.
Pretty exciting, this
Wait
part.
for it. Here she comes.
The school comfortably accommodates 500 students in around 60,000 square feet. The building sets up big views to the ocean, the mountains, to also highlight the attention and bring attention to the watershed and ecology, and of course across to the middle school. Exterior learning spaces are also distributed in all directions to further reinforce connection between program and place. The central commons connects academic program space organised around two-storey atriums marked with an asterisk. The commons extends into courtyards east and west and forms the heart of the school. It is a place where students relax, dine and study, as I think I've already mentioned. There's a satellite library collection and a variety of seating. It's a non-secured library. The sentiment of the school is, if they've lost the book, that means somebody took them home. That's a good thing. The head of school likes to sit and work at a table on the second floor, as it allows him opportunity to informally engage with students coming and going. And I know this looks a little bit like a rendering, because everyone is kind of beautiful, But for some reason, their student body looks like this, and this is real life photo.
That's what surfing does to you.
Yeah. Application of project-based learning principles transforms siloed departmental divisions into an interdisciplinary academic setting by mixing subject areas, replacing hallways with collaboration zones, decentralizing bathrooms, and distributing educator and administrative workspace throughout. You create a real energy and a real possibility of people working together on a topic that covers many subject areas. And it looks like this.
Oh, yeah.
Corner windows in classrooms offer views and also reduce a sense of confinement. Sustainability and resilience, again, were key issues. As mentioned earlier, particularly in regard to the environmentally sensitive habitat and the location in a fire hazard zone. The fire modification zone, which is what we had to respect relative to the design of landscape in this area, is planted with native and locally adaptive non-invasive plants, drought-tolerant and they're drought-tolerant and fire-resistant. I don't know if you followed the news probably last year of the big fires in LA. This was further south than this location, but we had come, when we started working with the school, it was just 2 or 3 years after what they called the Woolsey fire, where I think a third of the people in the school had lost their homes. Very real issue. On-site stormwater flows to the bioswale, where it infiltrates and recharges the water table. And they needed to build a sort of future-proof by creating an on-site waste blackwater system. There is no sewer connection or stormwater connection that goes back to any city infrastructure, and that involves tanks and treatment facilities of about 50,000 gallons of water, which you can see marked on the plan. The restored Escher and its interpretive walking trail benefit community and anchor school curriculum. We work with fantastic landscape architects who really understand how you can make systems visible. Rather than a defined enclosure...
Can I just say, we started the site planning master plan with the landscape architect on board, and that was really a key part of this, of the site planning.
I was talking to students today. Landscape's not about decorating your building. Landscape is about giving a way of expanding the possibility of what design can do and the experience that you provide. Anyhow, rather than a defined enclosure, the intention for this building was to create a layered set of earthy planes and texture to merge with the landscape. And it began with cast-in-place fire-resilient concrete shear walls. Everything has to do more than one thing. That's sort of the rule. If you're going to be a shear wall, you have to also then create beauty. I'll get to that picture in a second. I'm just giving you the second layer here. These were layered with copper panels, solid and perforated, and anticipated patina over time. Because you know copper will change color to dark brown, and then in an ocean, near the ocean, it will go blue. And the effect is to create a layering of panels and shadows amplified by the shadow patterns of the PV canopy above. Again, things can't just do one thing. The canopy not only generates on-site power, but also provides needed shade outdoors where large trees were not permitted because of the fire hazard. The resonance between building and landscape texture is becoming more visible as the plants take root.
Oh, it's me again. I need that. Thank you. Okay. Making more housing is a start, but if you want to exercise agency, do it with more thought. Outsmart the system at every scale. But sometimes we get frustrated by the overly prescriptive regulations, and sometimes you get to have fun with them. It's like improv. Yes, and can take you further than no, but. So in this case, this is a house that was designed for a city planning commissioner and her family, and I had met them when I was on the planning commission as well. So the first step here was to take a look at what the planning code parameters were. So I traced the outline of the minimum setbacks, maximum height, You can see it was quite extensive. and was pleasantly surprised to see the profile looked somewhat like a barn. So that's what we did. So this step you can do now with AI, and there's your building. So how hard is it? Come on. So the client liked the simple and rural sort of sensibility of this, and they ran with it. Oh, that didn't go. That did. Okay, so we call it the see-through house. It was important to us making it see-through from back to front to increase the perception of inside and out. This is a typical lot, 50 by 150, that we see in Santa Monica, with neighbours close on each side. And when you do the traditional approach, you kind of treat the front yard as street ornament and the garage off the alley kind of as a throwaway. So in here we were determined to take advantage of the whole site, and we use movable screens in the front of the building to mediate privacy from the street, but also providing shade to a western exposure. And let's get back to Julie.
We have to get this smoother. We'll
Yeah,
have to
well,
practice a
no,
couple more
we
times, and
don't.
I'm glad you're willing to practice with us. Let's talk about style. Many architects get bent out of shape about vernacular and or historic references, as if the modern abstract holds a higher moral ground. It's just another style. In short, we are style agnostics. Sort of walk you through the plans. It's a pretty simple plan, nothing particularly that is unexpected, except for the little living quarters off the alley above the garage. It was not actually possible to entitle as an ADU at that time, and you were restricted to keeping it to a powder room, not a bathroom. Stupid, but that's what it was. I love pegboard. This is not Hank's garage because it's way too neat, but it talks about the stuff he does in his garage. He tinkers with his historic cars. I don't know if many of you know Julia Child, but she was sort of a hero of mine in the kitchen. And I just love the idea that pegboard talks about projects and activities. And I have a theory about how you make people feel welcome, and that is that you make places where people can make a mess. So the idea of the kitchen and the house as a place of activity is something we've been interested in for a long time. And if you come to our house, you'll see that we practice what we preach. It works very well for the balustrade, and you can backlight it, and I don't have a photo of that. And the pegboard on the island you can see on the face, and then the view behind to the garage. In our case, it acts as a light fixture at night. Above is the permitted second floor accessory space with a powder room, and that sort of hood kind of ornament, what do you call it? Bonnet was to do with the sort of Midwestern roots of our client, who had a wonderful photo of her great-great-great-grandmother with a little white bonnet. It was fun to do that. So as I was saying, a full bathroom wasn't permitted, but we plumbed, so if the regulations change, a shower could easily be installed. Things like this that we do all the time, we kind of think of as civil disobedience, and I encourage you all to exercise civil disobedience. The regulations did change thanks to the state, which overrode municipalities who were afraid of density, and it can now be an ADU, which expands the density from 4 units to 8, just like that.
Acre.
Per acre. Okay, now it's your turn again.
No.
Ta-da.
Okay. Okay. Agency requires recognising what counts. So this project, Ashland, is a great example of missing middle housing, save short supply and high land prices that make units more expensive than would qualify as affordable in most marketplaces. Nevertheless, the missing middle density with units that offer more outside space than a typical apartment are hard to find, and is still more affordable than a detached house. Context: this is an unusual property. It's a flag lot located on a hillside and zoned multifamily, and it mediates between downslope mixed-use zoning along Lincoln Boulevard, which is the bottom of the screen, and low-scale duplexes and detached houses on 3 sides. Now, we acquired this project because took over from another architect who proposed what you see on the left. 10 units, it was like an apartment building. Could not get it through the Architectural Review Board. So we came in and said, why don't we break the building up into chunks, and 4 different chunks in here, and rather than having a double-loaded corridor. You know, Santa Monica, 1 mile of Santa Monica Bay is the most benign climate in the mainland USA. So why not have exterior circulation? So we broke it up into 4 chunks, better mediated the context of the surrounding single-family homes, and then created what felt more like small homes with their own gardens. And this approach follows the tradition of the California indoor-outdoor courtyard models of Irving Gill and Rudolf Schindler, with shared communal space that then led to private yards and front doors. So there's the floor plan. There are 10 units, including 1 affordable, as I said, into 4 blocks. So now, doing this, of course, developers going to say there's more exterior wall, so therefore the costs are going to go up. It's actually a modest cost. We end up offsetting that by eliminating the need for an elevator, which was achieved by locating accessible units on the ground floor. And of course, a garden apartment in Santa Monica yields a higher rent than a conventional apartment building. So that would offset the cost even further. So all units cross-ventilate and all have generous outdoor spaces.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Okay, so this is the view from the west before the planting grew in. Unfortunately, architects take photos before the landscape gets in place, which is most unfortunate. The bottom 2 units are those accessible, and there's parking behind those. Quick tour entering into the 2nd level, and some of the spaces behind, as you can see, are very tight. You can actually touch the walls. But you see that in Italy, where you walk through tiny spaces that open to a campanile. And then these spaces open up into the shared courtyard, which then leads to a private patio and then to the interior of the units. So there's 4 of these units are 2-storey townhouse type units, and then there's 4 that are flats. A view of the top. Now, at the time we did this project, PVs weren't required on the project. However, the roofs are designed for future PV installation, but we're finding it very difficult in apartments to put the PVs in because the developer doesn't want to pay for the PVs where the tenant gets the benefit of the power. The great news is they now have plug-in PVs that you can just pop on the roof and plug it in one of your own outlets, and you get the joy of being sustainable and reduced power costs. Okay, another project. Now, planning codes protect neighbours and public interests, but in truth, they cannot keep up with the reality of fast-paced changes in priorities for urban living, which are generated by shifts in lifestyle, sustainability, resilience and technology. If you think about, like, a lot of our planning regulations go back to the 80s and then were modified a bit in 2010.
If you go to the next slide, you'll be able to talk about that.
Can I? Okay. But just think how much technology has changed. You know, the cell phone has changed so much stuff. Anyway, LA, the postcard shot of LA looks like this, and it's extremely beautiful. But at street level, much of LA and many other cities, low and mid-rise housing looks like this, partly because of the conventional means of economic construction, wood frame, and partly due to planning codes that are not very flexible. Okay? And I think we mentioned it today. Planning code said, you shall have retail on the ground floor. Retail on the ground floor is dead. That would take 5 years to get changed on a planning. Anyway, working with a forward-looking developer, the park project provided an opportunity to rethink that formula from street to rooftop, which at the park included a 1-acre park, hence the name. Now, the project started in 2012, and this diagram shows the process for the planning entitlement. planning guidelines, as I said, were set early in the 80s and modified, but minimally adjusted over time. And they gave a lot of weight to public input that expressed fear of scale and density. The process was arduous and time-consuming, taking some 3 hours.
3 hours?
3 years.
Oh, you wish.
3 years, and very expensive.
Boy, that was a subliminal slip.
Wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, so that's what it was, okay? In 2020, the state stepped in to override municipalities to speed up needed housing production. The reason that municipalities don't do it because they're worried about getting re-elected. The state's not worried about that because it's a much bigger entity. Now, doing this today, all that stuff in the grey went away. It would have saved some 2 years and considerable expense for the project, obviously. So things are better relative to planning approval, but now they're going more stringent relative to building and technical codes. So you can't win. Okay, so we began by assessing the pervasive idea of continuous street front that drove planning, where most units face an alley or an internal courtyard, have token public space. In this case, it would have been a required pocket park, which probably would be housed by a lot of... No, it would be hard to do the retail behind, and it would have been a very great place for the homeless to live. Light and view for neighbours across the alley would be limited, and retail use is seen as the key street activator. And we suggest that sites like this employ a cross-grain model that offer more corner units, more units with longer views, multiple outdoor spaces, a variety of public space experience at the street level, and allow for light and breeze, you can see the little arrows, to reach adjacent neighbours, and creates a stronger connection between residents and the street. Okay, and the approach both challenged and changed some of the planning regulations. We tested various configurations, each time juggling density, scale, height, and open space. The first one, which is on the left, we said was too tight. The second one, the city said, no, can't do that, that's too tall. But every architect we've shown these to prefers the second model. The third was just right for the city planners. They could live with that. Now, if undertaken today with the new state laws, the second scheme would most likely be achievable by right. Okay? When I say by right, I mean we don't have to go to the Planning Commission for that. We do a courtesy community meeting at which the community activists say, well, what's the point of this meeting? Because there's nothing we can do about it because it's state law. But we have a meeting. It's all good. The LEED Platinum project was completed in 2022 and includes 249 units over ground floor retail with a frontage that meanders down the street. The project also funded the construction of 64 units of very low income family housing, which was also a LEED Platinum project, on a nearby site. So this is, we also wanted to bring the materiality of the building from the top down to the street level and not do the classic, you know, we should articulate the ground floor retail separately from the upper building or vice versa. We also wanted to provide open space at the street level with shade and with rain cover. It does rain in LA. And we thought it would be great to have a place where you could sit outside. The weather, it's not that cold, sit outside and have a coffee or whatever. Oop, that didn't work. I think I just shot somebody with the pointer. Sorry. Design of the building envelope was an opportunity to enhance street connectivity and occupant comfort. The result is a soft edge achieved by modulation strategies that capture views, add shade, and offer varying degrees of privacy. North-facing elevations were faceted to provide apartments with long views, while on the south side we added horizontal awnings and exterior movable louvers to shade the glazing and also to filter views across those courtyards. Balconies also provided opportunities to filter views. This was before a unit was occupied, but you could imagine on the balcony somebody having lots of wonderful plants. We studied a number of structural systems, looked at concrete, wood, steel, and we settled on a robotically welded prefab steel framing system. And this provided unit planning and facade flexibility and considerable saving in time and money. I think it saved 3 months in construction. It also permitted the roof to have the A occupancy, 1 acre landscaped roof amenities.
I think for students, you just might want to, I just want to add on to that. I don't think you realise how fine-grained a lot of regulations are. So once you hit a certain height limit, you can't put occupiable space on a roof. So that would have knocked a floor off the building to do that. So when you use this type of construction, it got high value because it allowed us to use that top floor.
Here's a section through the building. You'll notice we have a lot of section drawings in here, just saying. Anyway.
For those of you we spoke to earlier, yeah.
Okay. So you can see the relationship between the housing and to the street, right? So those bridges connecting the blocks were an opportunity to have that connection, but also the landscaped courtyards on the second floor. A 4-level basement was included, mainly for the then required parking. Now today, again, due to state law, them stepping in, that no parking is required by code. Okay, so now it's just market demands dictating how much parking is provided. So generally now we find that we do the developers are asking 1 car per unit. Okay, because we have good transit, but everybody needs a car to go out in the countryside in the weekend, right? To go bass fishing.
Bass fishing.
Yeah, they have the bass fishing place.
Bass fishing.
All right, we use flat floors rather than sloping for the parking floors, and that accommodates evolving uses. Currently, some is used for a large 2-level gym and spa, and some for a grocery store, a Trader Joe's. As parking demand reduces, and we think it will, more area there can be converted to some other uses. Okay, returning to the street, you can see how the street line undulates. The facade pulls back, some of it's covered. This is a view, the ground floor lobby coming in, and it can be accessed from the alley or the street. And then this is the gym and spa with the stair going up to that lobby. So, yeah, it's pretty high end. Yeah. Okay, typical housing floor. You can see the 3 courtyards running through the building. And then the project achieved LEED Platinum with an environmentally responsive passive design. You saw those shading devices, etc., augmented by an energy efficient infrastructure, including VRF HVAC system. And in this case, it was a common system for all. So one side of the building can be heating, the north side, while the south side's cooling, and they're just transferring the energy from one side to the other. And we used, solar hot water as well. You can see that here, and the use of treated stormwater for flushing toilets. That was tricky. Anyway,
it was.
And then you see the on-site.
I think it was permission to do that was tricky.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Not the actual.
Oh yeah.
Doing it. You could flush easily in the building. I guess that's what I'm getting at. There's no toilet problems in the building.
Okay, and then we have on-site energy generation, and as Julie said, the panels extend over the trellis to shade the rooftop. If you have a rooftop in Santa Monica, LA, if you don't have shade, what's the point? Okay, it just gets too hot most of the year. And then we have drought-tolerant landscaping on that roof and using recycled water for all the irrigation. And back to Julie.
Okay, so I think I said this earlier today. A site does not end at a property line, and finding opportunity to do more does not stop there either. So this is a real philosophical point in the office.
Oh, hang on, it's my turn.
Oh,
great.
fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
Before Julie continues, let's roll back.
It's like this all the time.
Roll back a number of decades, okay? So,
living in the past.
Yes, I know, but you know, somebody asked today about how we got started or how we got here. So this is our first affordable housing project, 1985. It's a little addition to a dingbat apartment building to resolve conflicting city regulations, building department versus rent control board. So we did this little thing to help and solve the problem. We were delighted when the neighbours referred to it as the cat and the mouse. And 40 years later, we continue work in affordable housing, and sometimes with the same client.
Oftentimes.
Often. Too often. Okay. Anyway, back to Julie.
My turn. Okay. Well, I think we missed a slide.
No.
Oh, no, that's right. That's because you interrupted. I got it. No, I'm still doing it wrong. Okay. Santa Monica Vermont Housing, or SMV as we usually call it, is our most recently completed affordable housing project, and it exemplifies the benefit of thinking beyond the property line. It was built for a not-for-profit housing developer and comprises 5 floors of housing, wood frame, which is how most of your housing here is built for mid-rise, over a ground floor retail or concrete, and 1 subterranean parking level. The project was LEED Gold rated. It is built around a major subway station plaza, which unfortunately does not feel that safe, or didn't. And it's close to LA Community College in East Hollywood. East Hollywood is a low-income, ethnically diverse neighborhood, one of the densest in the city. Don't be fooled by the apparent low scale. Some background. The subway plaza opened in 1999. Access to the station platform below is marked by an elliptical portal, which is set in a vacant pink granite plaza. Given the nexus between transit and development, everyone expected the station would catalyze development, and this is one of the few that didn't. It was not until 2017 when our client, Little Tokyo Service Center, approached Metro, that's the transit authority, with the idea of combining their properties with Metro-owned land adjacent to the station, that development and an ambitious vision for community hub emerged. Site consolidation and clearance was complete when we joined the project in 2019. We set about designing a community hub around an unhappy open space in a neighborhood where open space was in very short supply. The starting point was to crack open LA's conventional mid-rise donut. You know, we have a thing with these courtyard housing already from the other projects, to amplify a sense of open space for the plaza and for the housing above. The intent was the creation of a grand stage setting for daily life. Organized as a supersized theatrical front porch, the housing open space animates the plaza below. It's the green. That includes play areas, laundries, picnic areas, and community rooms, distributed over 3 levels with stairs and bridges strategically located to encourage social interaction as well as informal exercise. At ground level, the pink, stores, seating, and perimeter planting nearing completion should bring the plaza to life. The connectivity, activity, and eyes on the street provides added security for residents and the public. All of the housing is affordable, and 50% is set aside for permanent supportive housing that serves those who have experienced chronic homelessness. The ground floor, there's 24,000 square foot of retail, and the main housing entry is also from the plaza, a deliberate choice to bring more activity and people through that plaza. That's where the mailboxes are, the management office, supportive services, and community activity spaces, and a garden. Units are organized around the plaza-facing garden. Laundries and more activity spaces include a kids' playroom, and on the 3rd floor there is also, it's located on the 3rd floor, which is the floor above this one. This has got really interesting for us, this project. The design also responds to Chicano urbanist James Rojas and John Kemp's provocation. They ask why there is so little vitality, community, and sense of place in new multifamily housing. I paraphrase. Places like the Gran Burrito and the Green Bodega exemplify the vibrancy of a messy, neighborly urbanism with Latin roots that goes way back, before California was part of the USA. I'll say no more on that part, and has continued to be invigorated by waves of migration ever since. Bungalow porches add to street life in East Hollywood. If you follow Bad Bunny and you saw the halftime show, that is the same everyman's chair he had drawn attention to in Puerto Rico, but in Home Depot green. We wanted to tap into that often overlooked energy that we saw in these kind of places. We used material choice to do that. layering references to California modernism with breeze block, with added texture and color, and play it out in a scaled-up porch, starting at the front gate. Let me walk you through. The entry gate with housing behind, outdoor lobby and mailboxes that sit under the double-height undercroft. These issues of scale are really important in terms of making those connections to the plaza. Looking along from the top of the stair leading to the second floor garden. And this view shows the value of carving the open space back at the second floor to expand the perception of the extent of the plaza below. So it's building giving, open space giving. You kind of have to look at it from both sides. By the way, every move, don't forget this is low-income housing, so we were on a pretty tight budget, so we had to be really careful how we use our money. So consequently, we stuck to, I should go back a second, we actually highlighted stucco more than any other sort of envelope material, and have just a small amount of metal where the texture will do the most for people who live there, because you can get that texture at the units in the middle of that cutaway courtyard. And what you're seeing is a great undercroft space to hang out that looks over the plaza, and then next to it the garden apartments behind. The second floor community space, which was behind that little seating area, has windows on both sides, so it has a connecting way to build community and opportunity to wave and say hi. And from the inside, and then you can see what's going on there. I won't keep explaining what you can see. Downstairs, again in the garden, adjacent to the large activity area, there's room to hang out or gather with friends and family for a barbecue. Looking from the garden out to the plaza and heading down the interior hallway towards the supportive services suite. What you may not know is in supportive housing, adding supportive services reduces recidivism tremendously and is really a key part of building life stability. Zooming out again from the north, you can see the required 15-foot setback along Santa Monica Boulevard. One of the many layered and stupid rules that we had to deal with on this project. It's dumb relative to the street, made the building more expensive, and prevented us from making the interior courtyard even larger. There was a benefit. There is great second floor units that have generous patios. Can anyone explain to me what benefit that does for the street for setting the building above the second floor back? If you've got a good answer, I'd love it. Okay, I'm being bitter now, aren't I, right? I'm not at the planning counter, everything is all right. I'll breathe, right? Turning the corner into the side street, the project becomes quieter as it slips into the neighborhood. So there are 187 units and 187 stories. The gentleman on the left lived in his car or on the street for years. He was pleased that his 15 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren can now come visit. The lady on the right now has housing she can afford for herself and her daughter, and is heading back to school to study nursing. These are both from videos that Little Tokyo Service Center commissioned, and the stories are just fantastic. So we get back to agency. I think you've sort of heard our story, and this is kind of what we've learned. This is what we've learned. Okay. Let's start with 3 observations in practice that inhibit agency. Don't forget, we're talking from the we work in a system, of regulations, of approvals, of money, of the whole deal. This is the stuff that most gets in the way. The list is longer, you can imagine. I think the key one is that we lose focus on the quality of experience for the people who live in the building, for people who use buildings, for the public at large, while we scramble to do it faster, cheaper, and at scale. The second one is silly and stupid codes, and you need to talk to my other partner, Brian, about that. He's written a very nice essay on it, that unnecessarily undermine design, budget, and speed. And then there's the very sort of insidious thing where habit is disguised as experience and used to justify why things are done the way they are. So what superpowers can you have? Easy ones. And you'll get better design outcomes. Lead with quality of experience. The money and the program will follow. But if you start with money and program and then go to experience, it's likely that you may lose experience out of the formula. Think strategically. Deploy a yes and when you can to reframe code and technical constraints as design opportunities. Question and challenge. But I need to qualify that. Question and challenge backed by information. You need to research. You need to know. You need to know the dumb stuff so that you can do the important and beautiful stuff. Experiment and explore. That's the antidote to habit. So every project we take on, we're trying to test one other thing that we could do another way to see if we can take the quality of life that we provide for residents and for the schools that you saw earlier to a better place. 3 calls to action. So you can't just do it by practicing. You've got to do it by being out in the community and contributing. Hank served on the Planning Commission for how long?
8 years.
8 years. You could see him on television every other Tuesday night, and it was a lot of fun for the kids to make funny comments about him at the Planning Commission. You need to advocate for design quality, and you need to be persistent. Thanks. You want questions? Huh? Would you like to ask any questions? Yes, sir.
Do you need?
Thank you both for your time. Thank you for coming out here. So I noticed that throughout your lecture you mentioned materiality. How often do you find yourself experimenting with non-standard materials, and do you have like a lab or a workshop for doing this?
You want to do that?
Sure.
I'll correct you if you get it wrong.
Okay. We do. We have a workshop at our office. We have a large wall screwed to the adjacent building where we put up materials to see how they look from afar and how they weather. Often we don't get the opportunity, but we have a number of projects that are on significant holds, and so it's a great opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, we have a lot of samples of wood that we're experimenting with different profiles and siding and species, and they wrote it on with a Sharpie pen, and that Sharpie pen failed, so anyway, but we'll cut some off and work it out. The see-through house, that section, we did that with shingles, and we experimented with different shingles types.
Because what we were doing was avoiding the gutter at the break line.
Yeah. Right, so it's just completely up and over and down. So we did that with Malibu. You know, we couldn't use wood on the exterior because of the fireproofing, but we wanted something soft, and that's where the copper came from. Because, you know, wood ages. It ages beautifully. It goes a beautiful grey. Just like my hair. Anyway, but copper ages beautifully. Okay, and so...
I think we should also talk about the concrete. At Malibu was interesting too. So what we were trying to do was to get some of the sort of coastal colour. I mean, Oklahoma City has got a lot of that sort of sandy colouring. We were trying to get some of that sandy colouring into the concrete there. And what we had done to make sure that the finish was going to be really good was called for it to be sandblasted after the formwork was removed. We saw the formwork removed, and interestingly enough, the concrete work was beautiful. So we suggested to the school district that we keep it as it was. That saved them money and time. If we had asked for that concrete work to be done like that in the first place, the contractor wouldn't have warranted it because they would have been worried about chipping on all of the 90-degree edge corners. It's pretty funny.
Because we were sandblasting it, they didn't put those horrible chamfers on the corner of the concrete. All right? So then they strip it off, and we've got crisp edges. It's like Louis Kahn. I don't know if you know Louis Kahn, the Salk Institute, the most beautiful concrete in the world. Moishe Safdie did it, also at the Skirball Centre. And so I'm like, okay, guys, cut out the chamfers. I don't care if that sharp corner chips a little, it's better than that chamfer. So that was a great on-site experiment.
The hard part with experimenting with materials in a standard practice where it's not a, what's the word? It's not a cultural building where they're interested in the new, is that there's a lot of risk involved. And so it's a hard thing to do. The Children's Museum of Pittsburgh, I know this is a long answer because I'm actually interested in this material stuff and feel a little bit frustrated that we can't experiment as much as we want. We had originally designed for the competition, which we won, a folded polycarbonate, cellular polycarbonate. And 9/11 happened while we were in the middle of design development. And at the same time, the museum people, who I love dearly, were feeling like, what happens if this fails? There's a lot of money. So they did two things. They cut the budget because they needed to, because fundraising was very difficult at that time. And they told us to get rid of the polycarbonate. Now, you since have seen this stuff all over the place, and we've used it in other locations, but we couldn't use it there. The good news is that we ended up partnering with a guy called Ned Kahn, who's an environmental artist, and he made art. Now, this is the interesting part. People are willing to invest in risk with art. I think the other part was that it wasn't also providing, the weatherproofing layer, but it was a sunshade, and what he made with these beautiful translucent polycarbonate flappers that moved in the wind. And so we got a very simple box from the architect, and we set up for this wall of flappers. Have a look on the website. And they just move when the wind takes them, which is a great sort of thing to offer a children's museum where it's all about discovery. So I promise that's it. I won't talk about any more materials. Yeah, sorry about that. It was very long.
Over here, Julie.
I really like how much you prioritize outdoor space in your housing designs, but I was wondering, like you mentioned with Santa Monica, that it was like a really benign environment, and I don't doubt that helps a lot, but do you guys use any strategies to combat like increased HVAC or insulation costs from having so many exterior walls?
When we do apartments like that, like I said, yeah, it's a bit more cost for exterior wall, but we do double walls anyway between apartments. So there's no additional structural cost. Those walls are insulated, okay, already for the acoustics. Acoustic insulation is often thermal insulation. So really all we're talking about is the stucco, which is a very inexpensive material. So yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but from a sustainability point of view, cross-ventilation is a gold mine. Not running that air conditioner. That project is half a mile from the beach, so you get a beautiful ocean breeze. So there's trade-offs. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not educated in how to open the door and get that ventilation to work, because it's much easier to have the thermostat with a Nest thermostat set on a rigid schedule. That's all. Oh, the other thing is, if it's cold, put on a sweater. Hey, it's not that hard. Oh, it's harder than having it scheduled. So, but yeah, we need to learn. We need to encourage it. I don't know what you had in primary school, elementary school. We had window monitors, and that would be the kid assigned to open the window when it was hot and close them at the end of the day, and you had different people doing stuff. You had the inkwell monitor. Yeah, that's
now you're really giving away your age. Yeah.
So you've done some really amazing residential projects on a really different variety of lot types. I'm wondering, when you're doing infill housing, what is kind of a couple of maybe driving strategies or features that you think are really important on those kind of long, narrow lots?
Well, partly it's to find out where you can get maximize connection with outdoor space. So as we showed you on that see-through house, when it's tighter, and the next degree from that is that you have row houses where you have to rely on front to back. The section of the building is really important. Once you get to budget, it's very interesting about what works and what doesn't, and different developers have different opinions when you're doing larger scale work. So there's not that much invention in the affordable category on the interiors of the units. We get to experiment on the market rate side on the interiors. And what we're finding on the interiors is, like across the country, people want, or developers want it smaller, more built-in, more amenities. So shared laundries are no longer as popular as in-unit laundries. All of that kind of stuff is happening, but the space is shrinking. So the more that you can make it feel like you can connect to outside, the better, the larger the unit you provide will be. Anyone else? Up. You want to add to that?
Yeah. Look, we have been looking at. We had the 50 by 150 lot, and doing where we could do 4 units on that lot, right? And they'd be, adjacent to shared a party wall, but they'd have to access to the back, because sometimes there's simple things like, how do you get your trash out? Because the trash is picked up in the alley, so the front unit's got to have access, doesn't it? Right? You can't just build lot line to lot line. So we've done some studies for that. 2 stories, possibly 3, and then they would be for sale product. And then using the state ADA laws, you could take the garage that you've got and turn it into an ADA unit. So when we said we went from 4 to 8 units, then you'd be going per acre on that lot. Now you'd be going to 16 units and 24, right? So they're strategies that don't change the ambience of the community so much. Now, people always so freak out whenever you do a planning regulation. Everybody's going to do it. Well, no, they don't, because there's a lot of people that don't. So you'll get this mix of, happening. This is the fear of community input, to think everybody's going to do it. But there are people that are like, no, I like my house. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to live here. I'm going to pass it on to my kids, whatever. Well, it's not a development site.
Just a question on your structure that you choose. So obviously you're in seismic, right? In California.
Wobble, wobble, wobble.
Is that why you ultimately arrive at things like, poured in place concrete with mass and moment frames? Or is that because of cost?
No. The other. So yeah, the concrete was the shear walls for that high school structure. And high schools are done to a different standard, right? They're done through the state. Typically our projects are wood framed and they have shear walls, big shear walls with big hold downs. And, we have walls. You deal with wind
with that, we deal with the seismic movement. Same.
The steel frame one, the robotic one, is an interesting system, because it's a 8-inch by 8-inch tube that comes out on the field. It was 65 feet tall, and it's got these little key slot fittings that were welded on by robots, and it comes out, and then they drop in the beams that already got the fitting on the end done, and they just slot them in, bang, 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 going up, and it's quite astonishing. It is so accurate. The key slot, there's no welding later for the seismic, for the moment frame. It's so accurate that I forget what hotel it was. It was a hotel that was doing it, and it got stalled, and so then it rusted. And the problem was, because rust expands, right? So it wouldn't sit in the keyhole slot. So then they had to pull it out. They had to clean them all off, soak them in vinegar or whatever. It was that accurate. So when you put it down, you don't bolt the column down to there, because there's no way that the contractor can get it that accurate. So you put it on a steel plate. That's the only welding then is at the base plate. So it's kind of fascinating.
It's a proprietary system called Connextex.
Oh, you fill the column up with concrete, and that gives you a fire rating. There you
For
go.
people thinking about circular building, one of the most inflexible building types actually is multifamily housing, because the walls between the units are often shear walls, the exterior walls, you can't move things around that easily. This system allows for much more flexibility about where apartment walls are built now and where they could be built in the future. Because you essentially got a column system.
Sorry, I didn't.
Do you have to use intumescent paint if you're real close to the lot line?
No, we didn't. Well, we're at the property line, but you go to the centre of the alley or the street for your fire separation distance. So, yeah.
I can see that talking about fire separation walls is emptying the room. No, it's not your fault. It's a funny practice. It starts to be interesting because you deal with these kind of issues every day. Any more questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to switch from construction to ideas. You come from a place that is, has an important heritage in architecture, and there's almost a West Coast kind of feeling, and there's a lot of work, modern work that's really important. Where does your work fit in that context of architecture of California or LA?
Huh.
Interestingly, I think our work came first from Australia. The kind of housing we saw there in the architectural community had very strong connections to outdoors, and we didn't understand why you couldn't do that. And then we came across California modernism, which we'd never heard of. We're two kids from way, way away. And it turned out that there was a connection between what had happened there and the kind of knowledge we were bringing. And the Australian design scene was also influenced by a guy called Robin Boyd, who I'm clear, after I came here, was very familiar with California modernism. And there was that inherent frugality, that connection to outdoor, and sort of clarity that really we just fitted in with. So I'm not sure we're that clever. I think at least we didn't screw up what we had found was a good idea. Make sense? One more question and we're getting out of here. No, we've tied them out. Thank you so much.